comes from the wording Digital Innovation Hub for Cloud-Based Services. It's one of the 5 projects which were financed with this Center of Vocational Excellence Initiative, and it has been shortened like COVES. What is DHub? It's a kind of platform where students, web providers and businesses collaborate together for innovating new cloud-based services, especially for the SMEs, I mean small and medium-sized enterprises. In our hub, there is all in all 5 hubs in different parts of Europe. And to put it into one picture, here we have described the DHub ecosystem in a holistic way. In the center, you can see the European wide hub. It consists of these 5 different hubs, one in Finland, one in Portugal, one in Bulgaria, one in Estonia, and one in Croatia. And we are running the same service platform, what we have created during the project lifetime so far. We have a training program for students, and there is included a kind of development and innovation project for SMEs within the program. And for running this training program, we need really advanced stakeholder collaboration in the project. That's why we will create to this common hub a kind of online platform where we try to collect all the aspects together, so that there are educational institutions, there are companies, and there are these business support organizations who together will have some kind of contribution into the process, so that we will get the business cases done with these SMEs. So all in all, as a stakeholders, we have these 5 core hubs here in each partner country, and then we really want to collaborate with other WET institutions at the secondary level and also at the higher education level to spread the knowledge about cloud-based services and how to utilize this content in the training programs. And then, of course, we need business support organizations like Chamber of Commerce to help to catch up the companies which are in the need of creating new services through cloud. And on the right-hand side, you can see different aspects to cloud environment. In the first hand, there are these companies who are providing this cloud infrastructure as a service. It's called IaaS, and there are a few basic core actors on the field, like Amazon Web Services, Google, and Microsoft. Then we have, as a second level, those companies who are creating applications to that cloud through that cloud infrastructure. And finally, we have numerous of SMEs who are utilizing these applications in their processes. So all these 3 different categories, these companies who are operating in these different categories need skilled workforce, and that's why we really have this program now under development and piloting. So here are the locations for the hubs, and in the final end, we want to enlarge these hubs to all over Europe and have online concept. So it's not anymore so so far regionally, how to say it, well, online platform offers to spread this throughout the Europe, this content what we have created. Why we do have this project? You know that the technology develops really fast. That's why we need work-based learning programs. We need a project work methodology there behind, like when we are working with companies, they will give assignments and together with the students and mentors or coaches, they can frame the solution to a certain extent and then try to solve the challenge, and through that way develop a new cloud-based service solution for the company. In a hub, we need digital learning platforms where we can offer the training contents to all over Europe. And of course, we need a kind of platform where we can catch the companies and catch the students and match them together to find the assignments or the business cases to be solved. So to sum up, we are creating a digital hub, and within that hub we are creating a training program, which in this case consists of 21 days training and 130 days development project for the selected company. We test this training through 2 pilots, and so far we have gone through the first pilot, and Maja will tell you experiences about the first pilot after my presentation. So this training program can be adapted to already existing curriculums on ICT field. And one can also utilize this training program as a separate, really fast-track training program for the unemployed and for those who are maybe changing their career path. So in that sense, this training program has a kind of multiple purpose. It can be fitted into secondary level and higher level education, both. So what we have noticed while running this program are the different kind of roles starting from the supervising teacher up to vet provider. These are the core actors here. Vet providers should take responsibility about this SME collaboration and facilitate the development of the businesses in one way or another. And then students and employers are in a way the beneficiaries, and they are as well resources in the process.
Thank you, Jouni. We are running a little bit out of time, so can you speed up a little?
Yeah, I will finalize here.
Wonderful, thanks.
So we need really development of innovation culture in vet providers' point of view, and that's why stakeholder collaboration is the key thing over there, and the company collaboration. We need also external services like we are hearing today because of the skill gaps also by vet providers. So through that way we will approach the excellence in vet. So now Maja, please introduce the experiences from our first pilot, and so the floor is yours. Thank you.
So, going to what I wanted to tell you today, you know, the initiative on Centers of Vocational Excellence was launched 2 years ago. First as a pilot project, because in the beginning we didn't have enough funding. We had not foreseen in the programming period to have an initiative on coves. So we had to, you know, sort of go and fetch some crumbles of funding under Erasmus Plus to see how we could launch the initiative. And but just to tell you, it's a very important initiative for us in the vocational education and training field. Our commissioner is very much attached to it. And I can tell you that last year, in the last 6 months, we had quite a few policy initiatives that made explicit references to COVES, the Centers of Vocational Excellence, as a way of modernizing vocational education and training in Europe. We had first the skills agenda, which had a specific action on council recommendation on vocational education and training that had both for member states and at the European level a big call for us to modernize VET through Centers of Vocational Excellence. Then we had the Council recommendation in which the member states in the Council agreed on a set of priorities for the future of vocational education and training in Europe. And of course, it goes beyond the Centers of Vocational Excellence, but we are there, one of the key elements once again. Then you had the Osnabrück Declaration, where not only member states, but also social partners, so employers, trade unions, and also the VET providers in Europe, as well as the learners, they came together, they agreed on a set of priorities, and there, once again, vocational excellence, innovation through VET is one of the key aims. And finally, I would say that the Erasmus program, for the first time, has a specific action which is focused on COVE. So for the next programming period, so from 2021 to 2027, we will no longer have to be searching for crumbs of money here and there to support the initiative, but we'll have a significant budget of around 400 million euros, which will allow us to finance around 100 new platforms of centers of vocational excellence throughout Europe. And these will be projects running for around 4 years. So we wanted to create a funding mechanism that will allow a sustainable funding of all the partners so that they can work with some stability for 4 years and with a budget of 4 million. I suppose Uni is jealous of this because unfortunately, fortunately, because he was one of the innovators and the Digital Hubs is one of the innovators, innovating projects that applied for the first call of Centers of Vocational Excellence, but envious in the sense that he cannot count in his first project with so much funding and with these 4 years. But you never know, you can apply again and you can get further funding. But just to say that we now have not only a political framework, because there's very clear directions on where we should go with the initiative of Centers of Vocational Excellence and how it contributes to our work on modernizing VET in Europe, but we also have a very stable financial package of measures for this initiative for the period 2021-2027. Now, having said that, what is this all about? Uni already gave you a good presentation on what is being done in this project on the digital innovation hubs. But just to say that, you know, the main idea we want with this is to make sure that vocational education and training in Europe is not only providing qualifications year after year, but is really contributing to local regional development strategies, to smart specialization strategies, improving the innovation process in the areas where the vocational centers are working. But you cannot do it if you just look at your small ecosystem. If you're just looking at your small place, you miss out of the big developments happening in other parts of the world. So what we want with this initiative, and I think that's the added value of Europe, of bringing partners together, what we want is that, for example, the Finns, the Portuguese, the Greeks, the Germans, the Austrians, they all come together and share good experiences that they are doing. You know, for example, the Basques are very good in entrepreneurship, in making sure that the people that are coming out of the system then have the entrepreneurial skills to create their own business. The Dutch, for example, are very good in getting all the partners together, companies, employment services, chambers, you know, the regional players. And what we want is that, you know, throughout Europe, these various experiences can work together in platforms and enrich what we are doing at the local level. And so this idea of connecting So bringing together vet institutions, University of Applied Sciences, research centers, companies, policymakers. This is the essence. We want to make vet system get out of its comfort zone, of really interact with everything which is around them, understand in what direction skill needs are going, and be able to, through interaction with companies, rapidly respond to these challenges. That's a little bit what we want from the initiative. And, you know, when we were developing the initiative, we looked all over Europe to try to understand, irrespective of the differences that the vocational systems have throughout Europe. You know that in Germany and Portugal, things are quite different, but we try to see when vocational excellence happens, what are the key success factors? And among those three that I'd like to mention, first of all, is that vocational excellence to happen, it needs strong and enduring partnerships. And what do I mean by this? Is that VET has strong partnerships with the world around it, with the economic world, with the public employment service, regional development authorities. And these cannot be partnerships that are only made for this project. We need to get some financing from Europe, so let's do this project, and we are all, you know, working together, but then it ends. It cannot be. What we want with this initiative is to make this kind of partnerships something endemic in the system, that it is part of the system. Vet providers understand it's not possible today with the rapid technological changes that we work alone. We have to work with other partners so that they tell us in what direction they are seeing that skilled needs are going, so that we can rapidly adapt to it. Another important element is that when vocational excellence happens, it is linked to, for example, regional development strategies, so that we understand, for example, my region of the Algarve in Portugal, which is devoted to tourism, it is a region of tourism. So it is natural that the vocational centers there are looking at what are the regional priorities in terms of tourism, and making sure that all the tourism industry in that area is equipped with the skills that they need for their success, be it on young people, be it for upskilling and reskilling of adults. This idea of linking what we are doing in the vocation world with what are regional development strategies and innovation strategies is key. Another element, the last of these success factors, is the integration of activities. We should not only be providing qualifications for young people, we should be doing much more than that. Validating prior learning of adults, allowing them to have recognition of their working experience, and then maybe just by complementing that with something else, get a qualification that makes them feel valued, that makes them feel they want to continue in the process of lifelong learning. Providing, for example, activities, as I said, incubators, allowing the learners to not only look for a job, but they themselves, or what they've learned through the vocational system, try to build their own company. It's this kind of idea that VET should go beyond simply providing a qualification. And these are, if you want, the three kind of key elements we find are present wherever we look for vocational excellence throughout Europe, even if the systems are all very different. Now, just to tell you that last year in the pilot project we launched through Erasmus funding, we then analyzed all the applications we received, and we tried to understand where are these people working most. The proposals they came up with, to us, in what are they investing most? What is the most important thing for them? And this graph, I hope it's not too confusing, but of the 55 applications we received last year, it shows you that business education partnerships was one of the major focuses of these projects. So this is not us telling you what to do, is the projects throughout Europe, and we had around 55 projects, but bringing together more than 1,400 different partners, vet centers, companies, employment and so on. And most of them, as I said, focused on business education partnerships. It means that this is a big priority for them. Another big priority was on governance and stakeholder involvement, this idea of bringing everyone together. Another one was on initial and continuing vet. So project one don't want to only invest in the young people for the initial qualifications, but also on the upskilling and reskilling of adults. So this embracing idea of a complete set of services for the vet centers. So I'm not going to get into the detail of this because the presentation will be shared with you, but just to give you a flavor of what are these centers of vocational excellence working on. Now, as I mentioned, and this is to finalize my presentation, I'm sorry, Elena and Yoni, I tend to talk too much in all the the conferences I go to, but I'm finishing now. Just to tell that in 2019, we selected 5 very good projects, among which the Digital Innovation Hub that you are participating on, but not only. And over here in the slide, you've got the links to all of these projects. If you want more information, we have one on advanced manufacturing, we have one on creative industries, we have one on water clusters, and we have one on Internet of Things in smart manufacturing. So in 2019, we financed these 5 projects, which are now fully working and will be finalizing soon as well, because they only had 2 years to develop this project. But because the initiative was so successful, in 2020, we launched another call in Erasmus+, and there we had these 55 projects. We selected 7. These already for 4 years and counting with 4 million euros of EU funding. You see there are 3 projects in the area of greening, so green innovation, innovation in the green economy, urban greening. You have one on the furniture sector. You have another one on the fishing sector, the fin fish industry. Then you have one on microelectronics and one on inclusive excellence. So you see the variety of areas that vocational excellence is expanding in all over Europe. So with the big social focus, the one led by Cometa, on the green transition, on the digital transition as well, the Ecovem led by Bulgaria, on the furniture industry and the fin fish industry. So you see the variety and the wealth of ways in which the centers of vocational excellence are being used all over Europe. And this is all I had to share with you. I hope I wasn't too boring. And if you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer. And once again, I want to congratulate and encourage all the people that are involved in the digital innovation hubs for the pioneering work you are doing, because you had the courage to present your project in the first call we had, which was a pilot call, but you had the courage to do it. And you helped us a lot in refining the concept and now having centers of vocational excellence as a core part of the Erasmus program. So thank you very much, and I wish you the best for this meeting, and happy to answer any question if you have any.
Thank you so much, Joao. It was so inspiring, like always, to hear your ideas. And now, please, even if you're running a little bit out of time, there are still some possibilities to ask Joao. It's now or never, I might say. There is one question for Erasmus program foresee in terms of teacher mobility in the chat.
Okay, let me have a look at it. So where is it?
But the new Erasmus.
What does the new Erasmus program foresee in terms of teacher mobility in VET? In what could okay, good. So in teacher mobility in VET, there isn't, I wouldn't say there's a gigantic change compared to the past. There's one important change I would say is that now mobility for VET benefits exactly like the mobility for higher education in the past. You can go to any part of the world. If you find partners that are valid, that can help the teacher to become a better teacher or to learn new approaches in what they are doing in Australia, you can do it, we will finance it. So I think that is a very important element. There's also some, in fact, I'm preparing now a presentation on, let me see if I have it here. I can just show you one slide because it is something I'm preparing for another meeting. I don't have it here. I don't want to, you're already a little bit. Let me just see if I have it here right now. I can just show it to you. It's just one slide. And it gives you an idea of what will be the mobility, not only, but this can be useful for you. It's we're losing. I'm sorry, Elena, we're losing a little bit of time, but
don't worry.
It can be useful for you. Let me just show you because I think this answers the question that you've just put to me. Just a moment. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. This I'm giving you a pre-vision of something I'm doing for another presentation because I spend my time in this. But just to give you an idea on learner mobility, this is the framework for mobility in the next programming period, and we're going to have the call being launched quite soon. So on learner mobility, we'll have 3 groups of mobility: short-term learner mobility up to more than 10 days and up to 3 months. What we call the Erasmus Pro mobility, so long duration mobility of learners from 3 months to 1 year. And as I said, all of this mobility is any part of the world. Then staff mobility, we have the possibility of job shadowing, 2 days to 2 months, teaching or training assignments abroad that can now go up to 1 year, from 2 days to 1 year. It's up to the vet centers to see what they want. Courses and training of up to 2 to 30 days, and this is something new that wasn't possible before. We have blended activities, so all of these possibilities, especially because of COVID, can be done in blended forms. Part physical when we can travel better, but can also be online, so e-mobility if necessary. And there's other types of mobility. I forgot to mention the skills competitions. This is also new for the young people and the experts going at them. So what we want is to develop the spirit of skills competitions being a way of improving not only the image, the attractiveness, but also the excellence in vet. So if you have learners that will want to go, for example, Portuguese learners of a Portuguese vet provider that would want to go to participate in the Finnish skills competitions, if the Finns want to receive learners from outside, it is possible to do it through Erasmus+. So not only the learners, but also the expert that has been training the learners to go there. So this is a novelty of the program as well, which will allow this mobility not only for Euroskills competitions and World Skills competitions. It will also be financed by us if you wish to apply for, but also this transnational mobility of someone going from France to Finland or from Finland to Germany for skills competition. This will also be financed. So I hope this gives you an idea and a response to the question that was put forward. I don't know if I answered your question or not. I hope so.
Thanks. That clarified really well the thing, and I have to say that we have taken into account already in our DHub project that aspect that we have utilized Key A1 funding, but under this pandemic it has been impossible to implement it.
Yeah, and you know, just 1 minute, Ellen. Sorry for taking more time. Just to say that we see the Centers of Vocational Excellence as an ideal breeding ground for mobility, both of teachers and of learners, because the idea is simple. If you have these long-term relationships of projects going for 4 years, in which various vocational centers throughout Europe are working together with companies, you can see that, you know, you manage to know each other very well. You are working on common programs. It's the ideal breeding ground for mobility. You know, for your learner, you know that you are sending it to institute somewhere else where they are working on the same topic as you. So even for the recognition of the learning experience outside, it will be much easier. So if we manage to have these 100 platforms in 7 years' time of people that are working together for a long period, that know each other very well, for mobility of teachers, for mobility of learners, you can see it will be the ideal way of going around. And in fact, in the coves, we allow that part of the budget be devoted, in addition to what you can get from Key Action 1, but part of the budget in the Centers of Vocational Excellence, or the 4 million we give, be also devoted to some kind of mobility for experimenting, because of course you should go and fetch the money from Key Action 1. But if you want to test some forms of advanced mobility, whatever, it could be part of the outcomes that you have in your project.
Wonderful. Yes, that is so good news. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and we try to do our best to developing the COVES here in Finland and in Portugal and in Croatia and in Bulgaria and any place. And of course we have to learn a lot still, but it has been very inspiring, your speech. Thank you
very much, and I wish you a lot of success for your project and all the best for the rest of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. And then Maja, you tell us the best practices, how it is done in Croatia. Please.
Yes, just a second. I can see to share. Okay.
And I can share the European Union publication of COVES as well here in the chat if you are eager to know more. Thank you. We can see you. Yeah.
Okay, I can see slides. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I will try to now jam into 10 minutes what has been really a very long process of piloting the D-Hub, as Yoni has explained you earlier. So what the purpose of the project is. And I will just now run through what were some of our experiences, some of the hurdles that we encountered on the way, but then also ways how we managed to overcome them during the piloting process. So as Yoni said at the beginning, the entire DIHA project was thought of as a business center and student centered hub. So a platform where ideas and projects are being discussed, which put in the center of their attention the business needs of SMEs above all, but then also needs of the students who are involved as active participants of the D-Hub project. How did this look like in algebra? So what were our thoughts and how we went by through the process of piloting the project? So this meant that we had to match the needs of the business sector with the support offered by the educational sector that is being asked. So Algebra University College is vocational education provider, and we provide VET education on level 6 and 7. And what is important is to know that algebra is consistently in Croatia ranked by the Croatian Ministry of Education and Science as the best VET provider in the country, which means that we had some experience with this kind of approach before, but still the DIHA project was very useful for us to learn of how we can actually improve our processes and how we can build on them to make them more stable and more business-centered in the future. So the precondition for the entire pilot was that we had to start with the real business cases, in particular with business cases that were offered by the SME. So what steps did we undertake? So we first this was I think in January and in February 2020, so this was a very long time ago, we did the survey together, supported by the Croatian Employers Association. So they were very, very instrumental in defining the field work of the companies that we will later on engage in the project. So we did a survey with them among the SMEs who were to identify those who were interested to take part in the project and to identify the level of their digital maturity. So as you will see later, this was very important to be able to see which SMEs are not only interested, but what is the level of their digital maturity. Then during the project, during the pilot, we discussed the ideas that SMEs brought, but more often we discussed what their pain points were, what problems they had, and how they thought they could solve them. We discussed this feedback that we gained from the SMEs with our teachers, and we then worked very hard to match the needs. So this was the most difficult part, to match the needs identified in the business sector with the interests and competences of our students, because we admit into the university college students on different levels, and it was crucial for the success of the first pilot to actually be able to match the levels of competences of students with the levels of complexity of the projects that they will later work on. So the most important key points from our learning curve during the first pilot were these. First, I should tell you that the pilot was started in April last year, so in the midst of the first lockdown due to COVID, which actually forced on us certain, I should say, certain problems, and we had quite a lot of limitations, but we were very, very eager in April to start the pilot because we thought that this might also be a way to sort of overcome the entire very unhappy situation and to give to our students and also to our partners from the SME community a chance to work on something else and to talk about something else rather than only COVID and epidemics. So the first barrier that we encountered when discussing the problems between educational sector and the industry was, of course, COVID. So this was the first thing that sort of didn't help us. Then another barrier was related to costs, because the SMEs are not large companies and they usually don't have very high budgets dedicated to anything related to IT development. They also focus mostly on their essential daily operations, and even if they have IT departments, these IT departments tend to be they don't have high skill sets. So our problem was then to be able to sort of find a mutual language or a common ground where our teachers and our students can meaningfully enter into a conversation with the SMEs that were identified as potential good partners for the project. So the barriers in this discussion were quite obvious. So first one was that our teachers, of course, speak fluent engineering and very not fluent business language. Whereas on the other hand, we had people from the SMEs who spoke only business language. Then these discussions tended to be very time consuming. The levels of education were different from both sides. And we discovered very quickly that not all mentors whom we wanted to involve as teachers in the first pilot were able to actually help, because they lacked a good portion of soft skills, meaning that they were often not able to formulate or to articulate a good business perspective for the implementation of cloud technology. So they were sometimes, or I would say more often than not, unable to articulate a clear value proposition for a respective SME as to why they should all of a sudden now get involved with cloud technology, about which they know little, or in any case not enough to be brave to make this step. So how did we then improve our process of during the pilot? We decided to invoke additional mentors, additional people who had more of a horizontal approach. So people who in our ecosystem at University College were experts in implementation of new technology, but who had very strong business experience. So people who were primarily business experts and not IT experts. They then were involved in deeper discussions with companies, and they were able to offer a more meaningful career guidance to students who will then later on get involved in these projects, because students, when they at our university, when they enter into the work-based learning with companies, they usually choose large companies like telecoms and big banks or Microsoft or any of these big international vendors, because these companies look much more sexy when you are a student, when you have 20 or 22 years. When you're 22 years old, it sounds much better to work for Google than for some local SME. But we use the expertise of people who are business experts to demonstrate to students what gains they will actually have by cooperating with SMEs. And these gains mostly focused on the fact that students who do work-based learning in big companies usually get a very narrow, I should say, a very narrow perspective of what this company does, and they usually get a very limited set of tasks and assignments they will do in these big companies. Whereas when they do their work-based learning in SMEs, they get a chance to get acquainted with the entire business process, and their level of expertise and knowledge after work-based learning in SME is actually higher than the level of knowledge that they get in big companies. So we use then these business experts to look more specifically into problems for each SME that we wanted to involve in our first pilot. We also discovered that in the process that students, not only our teachers, but students could also benefit a lot from improving their skill set in the area of soft skills, then also negotiation skills, but above all on learning how to think about monetization practices and how to focus on business perspective of cloud technology rather than only on engineering perspective. So we used basically the first pilot as our learning curve in how to develop an approach that is suitable for SME mindset, because we mostly worked previously with large companies. What did this mean? Ultimately, this meant that we had to decide on what is the level of cloud readiness for each and every company that was involved in the pilot. So we could not offer one solution fits all to everyone. Neither could we let our students who are on different skill set levels to each and every company. So we decided to based on the skill levels of our students and based on the cloud readiness levels of our companies, we decided to divide them very roughly. So this is a very rough division. In reality, it was a bit more granular. We decided to divide them into 4 different levels. So the first level was very basic cloud readiness, where the need that we identified in the company was more or less something related to the software installation of cloud technology. So for example, to help them move their software infrastructure into the cloud by, I don't know, transitioning them to O365 or any of the other cloud-based mailing services. Then on the level 2, we placed all companies and students who were able to get into a meaningful discussion on devising infrastructure. So these were companies where we identified that their primary problem was to devise a good cloud infrastructure, not necessarily introduce it on the spot, but at least to give them a good solution and a good plan on how to proceed with the cloud infrastructure later on. Then on the level 3 were more mature companies, where we decided to go with them in the development of a complete solution or application for a specific problem. And then on the level 4, these were the most advanced companies where we decided that they could already benefit from AI or smart cloud services. So this was actually the most work where we had to invest our forces was in helping both sides, companies and students, to better understand their problems, their needs, but also their capacities and their skills. So we divided them into these different levels. We engaged them in a very heavy conversation in a sense that there were quite many hours that we use the mentors, the business experts as mediators in this triangle to come up with good and meaningful solutions for all these levels, so that both sides can get something concrete out of it. It was very important for us to manage the expectations of both sides, and to prevent the overpromise, especially towards the SMEs. So we worked on developing the mutual trust and shared set of values between the small and medium businesses, and on the one side, and then between educational institutions such as ourselves and our students and teachers on the other side. The most important thing was to have a clear value proposition for the SME, a clear timeline and path towards the creation of this value. So to have the SME understand, because the SME has no time for philosophy or for anything that is really not practical. They really have to focus very strongly on what resources they have and how much time this will take. And then we engaged with them in work-based and sometimes project-based learning, because we use the university infrastructure in the first part of the pilot, where we wanted to test the products or the services that our students were developing before, of course, we were able to implement them or to offer them to the targeted SMEs. So ultimately, we were able to invoke in the project the students who were in the first year of their studies, but also students who were in the final years of their studies. And we will even have now already the first graduate thesis that will be inspired by the participation of students in these cloud-based projects, which we think is really good, because these theses are very VET specific, I would say, and they are very applicative in a variety of settings, and we will be able to offer them not only to one partner, one SME as a potential solution, but also to anyone else who might be interested. So these are only just a few examples of the kind of services that we offer to the companies. But I won't go into this much. And this is basically the, okay, now I missed the number 9 here again. I thought that I put it. So this is just the short, so to say, a visual presentation of these different steps that we did in the process to be able to make sure that we will have SMEs involved and interested and profiting from the process, but also students. But then on the third side, the institution, our institution as well, because we wanted to keep the teachers motivated. This was very important, since this was an additional burden on their resources, of course, next to the normal working hours that they do for teaching activities. We integrated this into their schedules, and it was very important to keep them motivated, to see that what they do produces at the end, as we say, happy customers powered by our D-Hub.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maja. We are running out a little bit of time, but since this is one of the most important thing, cooperation with vet institution companies, so we might have a couple of questions here, short questions, if that is possible. But if you still want to think it over, so we can continue to our cooperation with businesses. So D-Hub was using very interesting platform called AutoGame, and so Eija and Olli-Pekka, if you are ready, AutoGame and CRNet, the reliable news and how to grow these future innovations, if we don't have any questions for Maja.
Thank you. Thank you very much for interesting presentation, and thank you for inviting us to participate your conference or webinar. My name is Eija Mäkirintala. I'm doctor in behavioral sciences, professional coach and a trainer. And I am the CEO and co-founder of Alter Game. My title is Coaching and Producing Better Innovations, Going Beyond the Obvious Together. So it's about innovations. And I suppose this is the main theme of the whole webinar. And this is kind of the main purpose of these hubs, as I understand it. I will be first talking a little bit about my own journey into Alter Game. It starts from the lower left corner. I used to be a professional violinist. I got really interested in coaching and training, especially in regards to handicapping performance anxiety, which is very, very general among, well, all people, but especially performing artists. So I went back to Sibelius Academy, which is the music university in Finland, and I started myself creating a coaching method, an approach that would help musicians with their challenges in order to perform well in their profession. And I also went back to university, Helsinki University, to study psychology, and I became a trainer and a coach, and actually created a new subject at Sibelius Academy, oppimis- ja esiintymisvalmennus in Finnish. It's learning and performing training. Not a very good translation. However, I got my doctorate on the subject, behavioral sciences, applied education, partly studied at the Institute of Education, which is in London, in the University College London, and the University of Helsinki. And if you want to access, you can access that thesis online from Helsinki e-thesis library. I also was doing training and coaching on the side. The idea was how to integrate professional top performance and well-being. And before I noticed, I was already applying this approach in different organizations, not only in the arts sector, but in SMEs and in global companies in Finland and abroad. I have also integrated arts-derived methods into my coaching and training, and you will soon see how this all melts into this Alter Game virtual co-innovation platform. I also led a governmental project on one of the projects on how to have the best work life in Europe 2020. That was a governmental project in Finland. And one of the projects was how do we enhance arts-derived methods in order to enhance businesses and organizations. And then I have, for the Finnish-speaking audience, I have a book about the coaching method and everything I've learned so far. And this is how I gained all this kind of academic hands-on knowledge and experience on how to get ourselves into this kind of creative mode and how to lift our thinking, quality of our innovation, and how to go beyond the obvious together. This is a snapshot of our Alter Game virtual platform. And it has now, in the last 2 years, it has taken us to abroad. We were invited to Tech City London and also to the accelerator in the University of Cambridge in UK. Here is, I think, one of the main challenges what comes to innovation. Please meet my fellow violinist, Albert Einstein. He has said, I'm sure this might be a familiar quote to a lot of you, but he said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. If I use the analogy of a hole, we dig a hole, and then if it doesn't really work, so what do we do normally? We dig it deeper. We work really, really hard. We invest more in it, and we hope that something happens, something different will come out. However, what normally happens, it's the same old, same old. The problem hasn't vanished, most likely hasn't even diminished. And we keep on digging the hole in the same place. But I think what Albert was referring to is that instead of always doing the same old more and more, we should instead step out of the hole, maybe dig a hole on some other place on the ground, or we might actually, it might be wiser to do something completely different, go beyond the obvious. Autogame was born out of this dilemma. Me and my co-founder, this Olli-Pekka, we were coaching training, we were facilitating workshops where people were supposed to come up with new ideas, radical solutions. And we encountered two main challenges. The first one we call is the collaboration challenge. We have hierarchies, silos, limiting work role. We have preconceptions, and we have prejudice against each other. From science, we know that in a fraction of a second, our brain, when it meets a new person, makes judgments based on the other person's gender, age, ethnic background, and so on. We are not even aware of that often. However, it impacts the way we communicate and interact with this other person. And in organizations and networks, this is always a challenge when there is more emphasis on who is saying than what is being said. This stifles the innovation. Another problem we encountered is what we call the creativity problem. Our education system is quite analytical, logical, so is our workplace and organizations. And it's very difficult from that kind of maybe even mechanistic systems and structures to suddenly from your desk mode, from your Excels, to jump into creative mode, frame of mind, where actually our minds, our brains should be making new connections, coming out with new ideas. Excuse me. Organizations are actually aware of this challenge. They have these getaway days, or they might have on site their kind of creativity rooms. So we thought, what could we do to alleviate this problem, this challenge, because it seems to be really universal. So we came up with the idea of an unique and immersive virtual collaboration and co-innovation platform that creates this unique experience where it embraces diversity and inclusion. And the whole idea, the main idea, is that through these 3D characters, you have real person, real time behind every character. These people can talk, they can walk, and in this particular scenario, they form a question, a burning question they need to solve at the moment, and they use these paintings in order to enhance creative thinking. And how do we tackle the first problem, the interaction problem with status and hierarchies? All the characters all people stay anonymous throughout the whole game. And it really creates a very different kind of atmosphere for people when you don't know who is behind each character. It really creates a level playing field. We have here a science-based behavioral design, and our technology is patented. And main thing is that focus is really on what is being said, not who is saying it. So here are a few groundings why we think it's important. It supports the United Nations sustainability goals. You can also learn future work life skills such as creativity. And of course, enhancing diversity, we know it's better business. Diverse teams are more innovative. Here you have a selection of our scenarios on our platform. This is the one, the art gallery for co-innovation and collaboration that actually have been used now in the hub, and to my understanding, very successfully. We have another one where you can learn and practice agile ways of working. And the third category, which I think is very important if we want to practice challenging interaction situations, such as customer service here, or here, nurse practicing difficult conversations with patients. Some user cases, it's not industry dependent. So we have different use cases in different industries. in an educational sector, it has been used in universities, for example, in UK, in Manchester, Cambridge, London, in Finland also. And we have used it with global companies, for example, vision, strategy work, change management, coaching, future doctors program, surveys, innovation, and of course, icebreaker in connection to different courses, for example. And I finished my presentation with some behavioral theories and customer comments. This first one was in Harvard Business Review from recent neuroscience research, that the less our brains can predict based on our experience what happens next, the more alert, the more creative it has to come. And AutoGame supports this by several means, by its design. And by the way, AutoGame is ready to use off the shelf. If you say, yes, I want to try tomorrow, you can do that, no problem. And here we have some interesting comments from customers. It really improves the quality of dialogue and creative thinking. 100% improvement in our discussion and results. And also, you can really learn new work-life skills. For example, one customer, not just one, we often get this feedback that I really have to listen because I don't know who is behind that character. So I can't really guess what this person, the character, is going to say. And of course, in the time of Zoom fatigue, people are really happy to be able to have these three characters and identify themselves with them. And they often feel when they have these three characters, not only strengthens its empathy and our attention span, but also it gives you kind of feeling as if you were physically in the same room. I think it's an experience we all miss in this Zoom revolution time. So let me finish with the final thought. I will ask you to think about kind of next meeting or workshop you might have now. How would it feel to be in an environment, in a level playing field, where actually you would have focus on what is being said and nothing about who is saying it? Just think about it. And by the way, we're happy to discuss and answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eija. I can say how it is feeling. It's feeling heavenly, you know, using AutoGame, of course, but we have used in DHub, and that's why we have a little forward steps here. But please, if you have any questions of Eija, it's really very good way of boost your ideas and innovations and grow them. If not, then I think Olli-Pekka will continue with the reliable news. You might think, how are they important here? Of course, it's because of the UNESCO 17 goals and the development ideas and innovations that we are creating today. So everything is ecological nowadays, and that is a good thing. And also reliable news and responsibility, 100% facts. And what else? Olli-Pekka, welcome.
All right, thank you, and good afternoon for everybody, also on behalf of me. And I'm going to tell about, yes, this reliable news and responsibility and CRNet. And CRNet has done cooperation with DHub, and I will tell a little bit also that. So my background is in AutoGame and also in CRNet, and before startup life or entrepreneurial life, and we are representing these SMEs, what we discussed before. I had background in software, for example, at Nokia, quality, and also vocational teacher, but also in sustainability, plenty of years developing businesses there and also developing sustainability leadership management systems and networks, for example, for Nokia. and also worked as own law resource also for the EU Commission and for the US Rosetta Net organization. The problem with currently with news, with any kind of news, but especially with responsibility news, that they are incorrect or incomplete. I guess everybody has heard of the fake news in the last couple of years. In the sustainability responsibility area, there have been this kind of fake news, some intentional, some intentional, plenty of years even before these late happenings. And okay, fake news is one thing, but another thing is incomplete information, and that's sometimes even, how can I say, worse, because you don't recognize them as, or we don't recognize them as easy as these incorrect or fake news. And for example, this when we moved very fast during this pandemic from face-to-face type of working modes to virtual remote working modes, and many people try to rely on the competencies, information, all kind of stuff from the old world, and they try to move with this old world information to new world, and that doesn't work very well. And now we have heard, or we can read plenty of research articles already. Also, in this area, there have been research articles even before this pandemic-related change of working modes, but related to well-being, etc. And now they have got more and more also publicities, how in fact remote meetings, how in fact cooperation needs to be organized in a remote world. And that's one example where we didn't use the information we really have already in place, but now we are getting more and more of this. Another thing in the problem is, of course, how to search and evaluate information. It requires time, it requires expertise and resources, and some of these news are from closed sources, so not available for public. And how to really know what is happening, what news are incomplete or incorrect. Of course, the key thing is that you have to have several sources so you can compare and look at what is happening really there. And CRNet, one business in addition to training and consulting, is the data bank. And it contains fact-checked news about responsibility produced daily since 2007. And it helps students, teachers, all kind of staff in companies and other organizations to act as responsible change agents in their workplaces and in their lives also. And who is it for? It's for example, educational institutions, teachers, learners, or researchers, or then for organizations, persons who are responsible for responsibility, for example, head of sustainability persons or communication persons, but also persons who are executing responsibility, meaning they make this daily decision regarding marketing, regarding product or service development, regarding supply chain development, regarding investment in new businesses, etc. And the benefits, really the idea is to focus on the essentials and leave the data acquisition and analysis to experts. And for educational institutions, this may mean, for example, that teachers can really develop their own competencies and offer students better working life skills. I'm pretty sure that after the pandemic, the responsibility, including, of course, environment, social, and all this kind of stuff, will be really, really upcoming thing in an upcoming requirement in working life. and increase competitive advantage, teachers, students, and institutions save time and money. This will start to be already a brand issue. And businesses, as I said, make better decisions, improve brand. It really starts to be one big part of the brand, create new business opportunities, innovate something new. There are plenty of forecasting that these responsibility-related issues will offer plenty of new business opportunities in the future, improve processes and save time and money. And in CRNet, we also made research that how customers and some other people, how they see these newsletters, fact news, and etc. And it was made, I think, more than 150 people this survey, and there was two main conclusions from Saara Teirikko, who executed this survey, and they can help and impact the corporate responsibility work in organizations and companies. And another thing is that what is recognized that really responsibility is in a way like a technology. You have to keep yourself updated because the things are changing fast and they change continuously. So 10 years to 20 years old competencies, old information may not be relevant today. Even the basic facts, basic ideas will stay the same, but many things are developing and improving. And this CRNet, in fact, it's a news application. We have CRNet news applications, or we can use whatever news applications. We have then a CRNet data bank server where we have all the information. And there we have also done the cooperation. CRNet had done the cooperation with this DHub project. And the idea was to develop artificial intelligence module and feature there to support the news hunting, analyzing, and that's a very interesting cooperation with the DHub. All right, that was a very quick update what has happened in CRNet and the cooperation with the DHub and what CRNet is offering. If you like to hear more, ask me or send Tuula Pohjola, and if I'm correct, Tuula may be even present in this conference. So if you are there, Tuula, and if you have something to add, please add. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you so much, Olli-Pekka. Please, if there are any questions, you may ask Olli-Pekka or Eija or Jouni. Maja needed to go, so she's not among us at the moment, and so Joao left also the meeting. But I have a question, if no one else is having. I have the question of all of you, like, have you had any new ideas today during this session? You can answer it now or later on, or you can write to me or chat, any type of ways of communications. I mean, Eija would do that to us and, immediately with a second, like, how many new ideas did you get? So getting our brains afraid. But you can turn out the videos and say your ideas or say anything comes to your mind, because soon we will be stopping this webinar, but we will continue in co-working. And we do have a hidden agenda, of course, combining ecological, IT, new ideas, everything together in a very good new project, I'm sure.
Maybe one additional question dealing with CR services. Are they also offered in English? So is the database dealing with sustainable news also in English available?
Yes, it is in English and Finnish, both. Both are available. And in fact, the good thing to recognize is that the Finnish news are not the same as international news. So in English version we have more international news, and in Finnish version more Finnish local news.
Thank you. And at this stage, I want to thank you also, Helena, for organizing this event and running it perfectly. So thank you, Helena, personally.
Thank you.
And to all the other presenters as well. Thank you so much for joining our seminar and contributing.
I would like to ask Tero Nurminen if you're still here, because you are the grandfather, no, the godfather of the DHAP project. That do you have any new ideas? Because we know that you have always very good ideas.
Yeah, this is Tero Nurminen here speaking. So maybe you could use the cloud computing technology to find the correlations between different data. That's the strongness of the cloud computing, because it typically has very massive capability to compute big data. And that's why we can see, for example, in business, many nice correlations. We don't think that many things they correlate, but after we have been analyzing using the data analysis, we can see that those correlate, and that may give us new ideas and maybe also new innovations from that basis. We need not always look the stars and skies and dream something and find the innovation in that way, but we can also find that in analytical way. If the people who are analyzing those data together with the system, they know the business, so to say, that they are interested in those different developments in that data, and that may be quite good for smaller companies, for example, that they can see that if it's a sunny day, it's obvious that people buy ice cream, for example, but maybe that they buy something else also. This is a very, very general idea, but this is I would say that innovations will also be developed using this cloud environment.
Thank you, Tero. I knew you had some ideas. I know that I am more like a dreamer, but Jouni here, and I think even Ivo from Bulgaria is more like Excel man or IT man, or how do you say it? Any comments here, and then we will thank you all.
The comment I have is concerning the design of the hub. I have sent you a week ago my new vision about it. It's directly connected with Auto Game, so the design is interactive 3D and so on and so on and so on. Today, when I saw some more from Auto Game, I mean as an interior, as an exterior, I think that we can fit with the design exactly in it.
Super news, thank you. Wonderful.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ivo.
Okay, you never know when the ideas come, but now we close this webinar. We thank you everybody to join us for our learning together sessions in this webinar. And if you have any ideas, hopes, wishes, anything, just put it in the chat or give us some feedback in some other ways. Thank you so much. It was so pleasant to see all of you here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.